Okay. You think? I think we good. Okay, I'm a little late, but it's fine. Hi, Nighttail. I can talk right now, because, I'm, prepared before lore business, but, we're gonna be doing a bit of lore today, so, I won't really be able to interact much with chat for, a lot of it, so, but it's very great to see you. I've missed you a lot. Hello, beloved. I hope you're doing well. Yippee! I'm so glad to hear. I'm doing good too. I'm excited. Been some pretty big plan stuff that XP's been really working on. So I very much recommend watching XP's point of view, because she's definitely put more into it than I have. This is mainly her lore, I'm just an extension. Thumbs up emoji. Thank you, beloved. I appreciate that very much. Don't worry, I'll have my PG tuber on for a bit of it. But thank you. You're looking beautiful as always too. Thank you for the flowers. Oh, she's already gone live. Let me I'm sure. Yes. Exclamation point XP. Look at XP's point of view. She's got more going on. What the heck? Thank you, Ninetale. You are the beloved, most amazing freaking Ninetale ever. Oh God. Love you. /P. Kiss emoji. I'm trying to make sure. I forgot to notify Twitch mods. I'm so sorry. I was so caught up in a lot of other things. Okay. Okay. All right. We going in. All right. Lore time. I'll be ignoring stream. I'm in chat for a bit. For most of it. My apologies. Okay. This time. All right. It's oh God. It's certainly been a bit. Let me turn down the music a bit as well.
Hello?
Oh. Hello!
Oh, hello.
Hey! Sorry, I was doing a little chit chat with my clouds. Hey, what's up?
That's so good. Okay. Can I borrow you for something?
Yeah, of course. What do you need?
Okay. Follow me. It's really cool. It's really cool.
Let's go. Okay.
Follow me. I'm aware that. So it's been a while since I moved my house over here. I don't think I've actually given you a tour of my house.
You haven't.
So yeah, follow me. Remember that? Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
I've
It's good to see a tour.
It's seen just a little bit of it because everyone's been kind of confused by it. Yeah, but it looks really cool from this part that I see.
Okay.
My bad.
As long as you. Now this is a very I'm saying this immediately. Do not stare into the crystal.
Okay.
Please don't. For too long at least. Bad stuff. Very bad stuff. Yeah. Okay. Come on. After I give you a tour, there's something I need you to help me with. We can talk about it later.
Yo, yeah, of course.
But yeah, I just want to give you a tour first, if that's all right, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
That's all good. Oh wait, do I sound weird?
No, you sound fine.
Okay. For some reason, my mic is echoing on stream. So.
Oh.
Double mic moment. I do.
It wouldn't be a lore stream if there wasn't technical difficulties.
So true. Wait, so I'm echoing? Huh? I don't know.
Doesn't sound like you're echoing. Do you have stream open on your computer?
I do have it open, but it's muted. I'm so sorry. Okay, yeah, I'm echoing apparently. But I don't hear myself.
It's probably fine.
Frick, I'm so sorry.
No, it's all good. Chat, stand by, chat.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's actually amazing. It genuinely would not be a lore stream if something didn't go
Oh,
wrong.
that may be why. Wait.
Oh?
Okay. Are we all good now? Because because I saw that the Chrome tab was not
making noise.
It wasn't that it was making noise. I saw that it was visible. Fuck. Okay, it didn't help. Okay. What if I just remove it altogether? I'm so sorry.
Amazing. no, this is actually amazing. This is so funny. Yeah, this is fantastic. I am incredibly nervous right now. Side note, but yeah.
Bruh, I feel so bad. Why is it?
Oh, good, no worries.
It's like spaghetti. Was it fine on the freaking starting screen? Like, what happened? What's happening to me? Chat, save me. Is it like? Okay.
These my pet right This is good.
Oh wait, okay, what is the mic connected to? Is it because it's connected to my fucking Oculus mic? I'm gonna kill someone if it is. I think that may be the issue. Was the same on the screen?
Chat, reminder, this would not be a lore stream if something didn't go wrong,
I'm
alright?
so incredibly sorry.
No, do not be sorry, this happens, it's fine.
Okay, no, it's connected to my
It is
mic.
perfectly fine.
If you need help, I think you need help. Fuck, you're right. I was,
Oh my god.
my title was a lie. I was the one who needed help all along. I really don't know what's wrong with it.
It can't be a real lore for technical difficulties, lol. You're so right, chat.
Like, I only have...
Don't worry, at the start my Minecraft audio wasn't working, I had to quickly fix that. Like, we're trying.
Oh my god.
Working.
I forget.
Got it?
This happens all the time. You should have seen Zombie. Oh my god. Well, I mean, like all of my audio tracks, the only things
Oh,
that...
hi,
Hi, Effy! The only things that I see right now are Discord, which isn't even playing anything. It's the game chat. It's not playing anything. And there's my mic, which I see it playing. And Spotify.
Do you have yourself listening to your thing?
No, I don't.
First routine French.
I don't hear myself at all.
Do you? Is it a wee ball moment?
Is it a wee ball moment?
That's up to you to decide. Mais je veux pas être forcé comme un peu d'exercice pour quelle longueur mais Boba a utilisé.
Oh my god!
Désolé.
Kyle, thank you so freaking much for my freaking 2 years! Bruh! I'm literally doing lore right now, but I'm in stealth right now, but it's okay, so it's fine. But thank you so much! What the fuck? What the fuck? Thank you! I hope you're doing well! That's literally crazy! Bruh!
Oh no.
Okay, fuck. I love Echo Strobe. Yeah, I'm so
I understand
glad.
the 5 words, let's go, terrible French, and I got this. This happened to me straight at the crystal. I didn't understand a thing, but yes.
Why am I Robo? Is it because I, like, slightly changed the gain? Because I changed that right before stream thinking I was too loud.
Nuh-uh. You could never.
What? I don't... I mean, I may have to pull up stream to hear what I sound like.
That's fair. So, chat, for now, what can we do? What can we gamble? I don't know why I said
Baba Booey.
Baba Booey. Gambling.
Okay, yeah, I'm echoing. What the fuck? What is echoing here?
You're not echoing the game, I promise. Crimson, yep. Chat, This is unlucky. This is unlucky. Head and hands.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, you're genuinely, it is not your fault. Thank you for the follow.
What if... Okay. What if I mute this? What if I mute that? You still hear me?
I can still hear you, yeah.
What? I don't know what it's playing from. Because I muted my mic in the track thing.
Wait, huh?
Huh? Like, I muted the mic aux audio thing, and now it's not echoing anymore. I don't know what this is playing. What am I? Where am I? Where is the other stars?
You know what? It's fine.
Fuck it. We figured it out. Let's go. Back to lore, chat. Yeah.
Okay, back in lore. Alright, follow me, come on.
Yes, alright. I'm so excited to see your house. What can... oh my god, wait, oh.
Did you find your strange object that was missing?
Yes, that was so crazy.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Crazy. Oh, I'll be honest. Surprise. Change your. Oh, hey, Boba. Hi. How's it going?
Hi, Boba.
Well, hello,
Good.
Strobe.
Hi. I'm good. How are you? Hi.
I'm good. How have you
I've
been? I haven't
missed
seen you in a bit.
I know. I'm sorry. I've been okay. I've just been kind of like distancing myself a bit because it's just like I want to help, but I don't know what to do to help. So I've just been like, yeah,
Like working at the bakery
yeah,
and like traveling a bit. Yeah,
yeah.
cool. Yeah. I'll come by the bakery maybe later if you're still open.
Yeah, of course. Oh my gosh, heck yeah, I'd love that.
Yeah. I mean, like we could also like go on a date sometime. We can talk about that later though.
Okay, I would like that though.
Okay. Am I interrupting you guys? Are you
I'm. Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Oh, okay. My bad. I'll let you guys.
It's my fault. Thank you.
What was that?
I think. Ren, are you nearby?
It might be.
Or are you
Ren.
far away? I
He's
can't
like,
tell.
okay.
I'm generally good at.
It may be
hearing
Effy, because
Oh.
Effy was just over here. I saw Effy like a minute ago, while I was finding my lost thing on my person.
Oh,
Uh,
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, it's really
Well,
sketchy what happened.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry.
No, you're all good. She was just
I won't
gonna
help
give
you
me.
guys anymore.
I hope
And-
I hope your date goes well later. I hope it goes really well.
Thank you.
Bye.
Mwah.
Mwah.
Bye.
You two seem to be close. That's nice.
Yeah, we've recently got a little bit closer recently. Some could say
I see.
historians would call us roommates.
I see. Okay. I see. That's unique. All right. Ignore this. This we can talk about this later. It's
Oh.
just something I made.
Okay.
It's all for something else.
Okay.
I just need to go to my house. It's okay. It's still here. Oh, okay. This is
Sounds good. You alright?
means I'm. I've had a few. I've just been not. I'm just. Yeah. I'm fine. Yeah. I'm fine.
Oh gosh.
I hear something. One moment.
Mm.
Oh.
Oh.
Oh. Okay.
Yes.
Goodbye.
Effy just chilling.
Okay, that's fair.
Hey,
I
Effy.
thought I heard something. Okay,
Oh.
up we go.
Ooh,
I'm sorry, I don't have a functional elevator here yet. I need to
that's all good.
design one properly. It's a bit of a back of my mind. I don't want to. It's yeah.
In
It's
the
effort
back
to
of
decide.
my
It's-
mind. Sorry.
Yeah, you're all good. Everything's fine. Yep.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine. It's fine.
Are you sure? You can talk to me about anything.
Yeah, I know. Don't worry.
Okay, I'm
I-
good.
Yeah.
This is freaking sick.
Thank you.
Of course.
Again, don't stare at the crystal
Oh,
for
yeah.
too long. It's
Right.
very bad.
My bad.
No, I just don't want you to be hurt, you know?
Oh, well, thank you. I don't want you to be hurt either.
Awesome. So here's a quick tour.
Oh,
Ignore that.
okay.
So this right here is a map of spawn. We have a nice map of spawn, you know, good
Ooh.
stuff. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
This is where I generally try to find things if I'm lost. I'm lost very commonly.
Oh no.
Frequently. No, I'm lost very frequently. English is hard.
It's okay.
but-
Maybe you need like one of those like Showtime compasses. Wow.
I
Didn't you
wish I
get one
had
of
those.
those?
Very useful. No, I was kind of phasing in and out of reality. It was really awkward.
Oh god. I'm sorry.
Really. I got stuck.
I
in,
think
like,
I gave mine
on the
away.
plane. It was really annoying. That's all right. Don't worry. I'm just frequently lost.
Oh, okay.
All right. If you follow me to the next section, again, trying not to look at the crystal.
Mm.
Why? Wait.
What was
Why
it?
is there's someone?
Hmm?
I'm not gonna question it.
Oh.
Excuse me.
Okay.
If there's someone in the crystal, that means that they're probably from A, another reality, or B, some sort of deity. Do not look at them.
Oh, okay. I mean, I might have
Look.
already looked at them, but it's okay.
Okay. Are you feeling okay? Are you feeling okay? Are you seeing?
My demons.
How
No.
How many arrows in the floor are there?
0.
Okay. That's okay. That's good. That's good. This is good. Okay, you're still relatively fit. This is good.
Yay!
This is my forge. This is where I work on
Ooh.
working projects. Very important things. But this should be very strong glass. You shouldn't be able to break through it. Yeah, so you can jump on it. Though that's yeah, it's very warm in here.
I mean,
Okay. Follow me.
okay.
The next room is it's the crafting room. Just simply we have everything we need for crafting. You got a stone cutter. This is just a painting. I don't know where it came from.
Okay. It looks cool.
Actually, I do. It came from my computer. Yeah, my personal computer.
You got a computer here? That's so
I built
sick!
it myself. Yeah.
Wow!
I didn't realize that you knew what a computer was. That's new.
Well, I mean,
Oh,
yeah,
awesome.
I haven't seen one in like so long, but like, yeah, I know what computers are.
Huh? The more you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, got a nice what's it called smithing table. I can do some quick metal work away from the forge. You know, like a brewing stand. We may need to use it later. We'll see. Oh.
Oh.
I did not need to do that.
That's fine. Ah!
Robin bucket. Okay. But yeah. So that should be most of the thing, and then of course there's the how do I describe it? It's kind of like Insanity if you built it into like a crystal and then harness its energy so that you can exist in
Oh,
multiple different existences at once, but not
I see.
rocket science. This is just storage. I store a lot of things in here.
Oh.
I have a lot of stone. Oh, whoops! I'm gonna need to burn that later.
Oh.
Yeah, you didn't see that, all right? And don't tell anybody what you saw. Got it?
What are you talking about?
That chest.
Which one? This one? Oh!
You didn't see that. You didn't see that. All right. You didn't see that. You didn't see that. All right. You didn't see that. No.
Alright, alright. Okay, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So that should be everything. Now here comes the hard part. I
Alright.
need your help. Okay.
Yeah, of course. What's up?
Yeah. So, this pertains down here. The thing that I said we were gonna talk about later. Yeah. That's
Okay.
so
But this is
follow me.
This is a really cool house though, like super freaking unique and everything. I'm glad you were able to get it over here.
It was very costly and tiring.
Well, I say it definitely paid off, cause it's pretty freaking sick.
So, actually, this is actually a funny story. So, there was a really rare aurora. What the? I can't look at that for too long. There was a really rare. I think it's called an aurora borealis here. Is that? Do you know what that is?
Hey.
Hi.
Oh, hello. Oh, is Ren sleepwalking?
Yeah, she's
I
just
see.
perched right now.
Oh, I see.
Ah, fascinating. Awesome.
Do you
Follow
have
me, sir.
a ender chest real quick? Sorry.
I do, yeah. Actually, there's one over here, I thought. Yeah, right here.
Oh,
Right here.
okay, awesome.
Oh.
Thank you.
We can. This is a more private matter. Sorry, Strobe, so we can wait, but yeah. How's Rin doing?
She's done good.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Oh yeah. I haven't
There we go.
seen Rin in a hot minute.
Just be careful with those diamonds. They're somewhat important. Effy.
Effie's
all.
thriving. It's okay.
Is
Yeah,
Effy
Effy's
staring at
just,
the goddamn?
sunbathing.
Effie, wait.
Ah,
Effie, no.
Don't stare at that for too long. That's very bad for your sanity.
I mean,
like, actual everything.
to be
Boba?
fair,
What?
Rin,
Huh?
Rin, no, Rin.
Rin keeps looking
No,
at the crystal. No, Rin.
Wait,
Avert
am I-
your
am I
eyes.
Like,
sleepwalking?
is there, like, it's,
It's very bad. It is very bad. So,
oh,
if you look at it, you might like understand or try to understand incomprehensible horrors, and then you break your mind. Rating 235.
oh,
That's stored elsewhere, not up there. But
do you think maybe Rin is fine because they're kind of like,
Rin's eyes
Oh.
are closed. We're good.
It's okay.
okay.
Sheepy.
Okay.
I mean, like, I'm kind of like,
There's
got it a
also
lot,
like I think
considering
a
it's
deity
above
up there.
Huh?
It's
that makes
speaking
sense.
to us.
There's also like a deity up there. I don't know.
Oh.
There's someone in there.
Oh.
Strobe.
Sorry.
Sorry, I don't need to hit you, but please.
It's okay. Sorry.
Just,
I was
like, please.
the deity
Like,
caught me off
really-
guard.
Oh, hi.
hey.
Oh, hi.
Hey.
Maybe.
I'm gonna drag you, Strobe, over here. Just
What are you
away.
doing? Oh god. lag.
Huh?
Whoa.
have-
beauty.
I'll take my crown off.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's not really a crown, it's more of a mask. But
Yes, I can actually. What happened?
I love
Oh.
interdimensional incomprehensible horrors. Oh, I love incomprehensible horrors. This is great. This is what happens when you stare at the crystal for too long. This is what happens when you stare at the crystal for too long. This.
Oh my god.
V, how much have you stared at the
Hello.
crystal for? Oh god.
Okay, we're gonna... Strobe, follow me, please. We'll go
Okay.
You guys
somewhere
want to see the new frog
safe.
I got?
Somewhere safe.
Oh
We'll go
my
over
god.
here.
Okay.
Follow me, Strobe.
No.
In fact, I think I might switch
Whoa.
us to... You'll go in here.
Yeah.
HSA can open also got a lot of crafting tables.
Oh.
That's concerning. I'm gonna make a group for it.
Okay.
Just a quick group. Okay.
I'm normal now, thank you.
Boop. Oh.
Hello, welcome.
Hello.
Group. Awesome. So I switched us. I'm using our private phones right now. Smile.
Yo. Okay.
But there should be isolated enough in here. I should have enough ability to do that.
That's
Anyway,
cool.
sorry.
That's
I
okay.
need your help regarding a machine. If you want to follow me,
Mhm.
this.
Oh.
Well, this. Oh, it's Porgy. Okay, that's a new person. Anyhow, follow me up here.
Oh.
Right here. Up here.
Ba, 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 ba.
Oh, V's here too. Okay.
Oh,
Hi,
that's
V.
how you get. Eeh.
This right here is a specialized mechanism that I desperately need someone to enter and activate. And unfortunately, I don't want to be mean or anything. You are the only person I think that can do this. So I need your help.
I feel honored. I'd be happy to help.
Okay. Good. Okay, good.
Are you?
So I'm fine. I'm
You're
fine.
just-
I'm fine.
Okay.
I can tell you're moving. It's really awkward with my hearing. Whatever.
Sorry.
What was I gonna say? No,
I'm a little zoomy today.
I got it. I'm too. Okay. What was I saying? Right. So actually, we need to load this thing up with. This is gonna sound really strange, but bear with me. We need harming potions.
Okay. All right.
We need 2 of them in particular. 1 harming 2, 1 harming 1.
Okay. I have no idea how to make those.
I think we need. I know we need blaze powder, which
Okay. I have spare blaze rods.
Okay, so I was gonna suggest we go back and get some fresh ones from the fortress.
I'd rather not go back
Oh,
there
okay,
for
that's-
personal reasons.
No, that's
It's-
fine. That's fine. Don't worry. That's fine. It's all good.
Thank you. Okay.
So the best way that we can
Sorry.
do this, we need. No, it's all good. It's perfectly fine.
I have plenty
Do
though.
you have any glass? We can get bottles up there. It's fine. We go back up. We'll go back up.
Okay.
Just again, don't stare at the crystal. It will end badly.
Okay.
I feel like I can stop using my energy. It's really tiring. We can talk with the people again.
Okay.
Sorry, it's really tiring to do this.
No, you're all good.
Okay, yeah, we're back. Hello?
It's okay. You don't need to apologize for that. Hello. It's a pretty neat trick though.
Awesome. It's just, yeah.
Mm.
Oh, it's a lot of energy.
Yeah, I don't want
It's
to go
very
for exotic
tiring
ships.
to hold that for long periods of time, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay, breathing, sorry. Oh, well, I'm a little bit tired.
Should probably. Oh no.
I've been researching a lot of things.
Oh god. Well, have you taken any breaks or like rest? And stuff? Have
I should-
XP?
What?
You should. I swear to God.
Okay, the incomprehensible deity is now talking. It's fine. This is fine. We
Okay.
should go to the which way's the crafting room? 2 ways around. Follow me.
All right.
I love having signs. Also, ignore. I know we have like a giant it's called. I call it a stabilization crystal. We also have these balloons to keep it afloat. They're very necessary. It should be being piped in air. That's what those pipes are for.
I see.
Whatever. Okay, we just need glass. Are you kidding me? I'm one glass short.
No!
Can you make bottles with stained glass?
I don't see why you can't. Thank you, deity.
You can't. This is highly unfortunate.
No,
Okay,
why'd the deity
so,
lie to us?
Don't.
Oh yeah, here's
I
my...
mean, oh.
Boop, boop.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so follow me. We're gonna go to the crafting room. This is incredibly important. We get this right. I don't mean to be distressing in any way. We need this to get this right.
Okay, okay.
Put this in here. Should we? Okay, it's been fueled. I'm gonna put this over here. Gosh, no, it needs to go in one of the barrels. Barrel here. This one. Okay. Okay. So next we need. What is it? I think we need a fermented spider eye. Mushroom, sugar, spider eye.
Hmm.
We might have mushrooms. I think we have sugar. I think we have spider eyes. Sorry, it's gonna feel like I'm rambling and running around. I just need to find.
It's okay.
This.
Just whatever I can do to help.
Do you have any Can you go grab some glass bottles? 3 should do. Water them. Like fill them with water, please.
Okay, I'll try to find that.
Thank you. The
No problem.
way around is this way to the right.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's good.
Ba, ba, ba. Oop. Oh, okay. Okay, that was scary. I shouldn't have said that. Ooh. Okay. Oh. Just need some glass bottles to help XP with the thing that's a little bit concerning, but it's fine. Wow. Oop. Frick. Can't type. Yee. A mushroom and a sugar cane. A glass bottle. Mushroom. Sugar cane. Sandy. Squidward. Mr. Krabs. Oh. Don't mind if I do. I got one. And there's no mushroom. That's a bit of an issue. What if I... Damn it. Don't mind if I do. Don't mind if I do. I'm sure it's fine. It's a community area. So it's free real estate at this point. Also, oh. I really hope that there's one in here. So I can free real estate. Yes! Let's go. I love fetch quests. They're so simple and so fun. Especially when they're helping my friends. Whoop. Just need the sugar cane, which I know we got plenty of. Because I've used plenty from my bakery. Which I made, by the way. I didn't get to properly say. Oh, wait. Oh, no, you're okay, Boba. You have nothing to apologize for. I don't know why you're apologizing. You're all good. Also, hello. We're doing well. Boop. Single sugar cane. Because I don't think we need another. Yeah, no. I'm just, like, rambling, talking to myself, if that's what you're thinking. Or talking. Yeah, I made a little bakery. It's in the shape of a big old freaking cake, and I serve little pastries there. It's great. Kind of. I sell them for free, but like people just end up taking them. It's just kind of like, I mean, I know they're free, but at least tell me, you know? If it brings people joy, that's all that matters. Got a real nice view. Oh. Wah, wah. Wah, wah, wah. Here I come with the things for XP to help her.
Oh, hi, welcome back.
Hey, thank you.
Did you also grab another word?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, follow me. You ever done any alchemy ever? Do you know what alchemy is?
I do not sell Suki. No. I mean, I
Great.
slightly know
Awesome.
about it,
So
but
can you put the water bottles in the
boop, boop, boop.
Awesome. So first step, you need to put the nether wart in.
Okay.
Okay, can you hand me the sugar and not the sugar, sorry, the sugar cane and the mushroom?
Yes.
Oh, I think we need to be a brown mushroom, of course.
Oh,
It's all good, no worries.
I could. There's some down there I could grab.
Just I'll go with you next time.
Okay. Sorry.
No, it's all good. Yeah. I haven't seen you in a while. Come on, let's go get it.
You
So
haven't been around.
I've been elsewhere, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I understand.
Elsewhere.
I don't blame you. You're getting your house over here.
Yeah. And also, yeah, I get my house over. It's
Well, I mean, yeah, the other thing, but it seemed like a kind of like sore topic, so I didn't really want to.
that's fair.
What is this?
Oh, it's my house. I wouldn't recommend staring at the crystal for too long.
Hi,
You'll go
Porgy.
crazy.
Hi.
Hey.
I thought this thing belonged to Evan.
No, this is my house.
Oh. Oh, that's that problem solved, I guess. Well, good luck with whatever this is.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Okay, come on, Strobe.
Later.
Are they new around here?
Yeah.
Ankles. Why?
I,
Ankles.
Helped him out, gave him a few things. Me and
Oh,
Nebula.
I see. I was what's the word? Yeah, again, I was gone for a bit.
Yeah.
Wait, where did you say the mushrooms were? I don't know where we're going.
Oh, there's like a handy dandy little brewing stand area in the community center.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's incredibly useful.
Yeah. So like I just yoinked
Oh, awesome.
once here.
No, that's fair. I was taking this.
See.
Awesome. Oh, who is?
Bitch ass
Got it.
Humphrey.
Okay, we go back. We go back now. Oh, hi, Budgie again.
Hello.
Come on, Strobe. Come on, Strobe.
Okay. This is a silly
I'm
kind of
fine.
day. This is like the most people have come around me
I mean, did
in a
you
hot minute.
say you were isolating? Is that the word?
I mean, I wasn't fully isolating. I was just kind of like, I backed off a bit because it felt a bit awkward, kind of like standing off to the sidelines and not really knowing how to, intervene or anything.
I see.
But as long as I know I'm here
Okay.
and here to help,
Yeah.
it's all good.
Okay. You're gonna help so much, Strobe. You have no idea.
I'm so
You're
glad.
gonna help so much. Thank you.
No problem. I'm so glad.
Oh,
That makes me very happy.
okay. That's good. Yeah. Yeah.
Ah, bah.
Sorry, I'm a little on a hitch. I've had, that other place. Yeah, the other place. It's a little, yeah,
What?
tiring. I'm very tired from the other place.
Okay. Do I need to beat anybody up? I will.
Oh no, you're good. You're good.
Okay. Okay.
There's nobody to beat up. I
Oh.
think for now.
Okay. Okay.
Well, let's hope it stays that way. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Very much so. Because you deserve to relax and have a break. Because you've been working on
see.
yourself real hard.
Yeah. Okay. So if I combine these, one of these. Okay, good. I need. I think it's a redstone. I think I have redstone over here. I just need. Why is there incomprehensible horrors that were naming themselves?
Hmm?
Why is there incomprehensible horrors? Okay, it's fine.
Okay.
Oh. Just don't question the incomprehensible. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, I take one of these, two of these out. No, yeah, the gunpowder first. Okay. Ah, shoot! I think we need glowstone.
Oh, frick.
I don't know where to find that.
I think-
We might have to go back to the Nether. Sorry.
It's fine. The Nether itself is okay. I've been there a couple of times.
Yeah, we need glowstone.
Just as long as we don't need to go to any fortresses, I'm all good.
Okay. We hopefully should. We'll see.
Okay. We can also
Yeah,
stop by the community center real quick to see if they have
right,
any.
That's a good idea. That's a really good idea. Yeah. Yeah, let's be faster too. Be faster.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Woo!
Strobe.
Woo!
Strobe.
Woo!
Please be careful.
I am.
Okay, just please don't die.
I'm not. I promise.
Okay.
No, it shouldn't really matter.
okay.
It should be. Oh, hey. For some reason, I thought you were XP. But hey. But yeah, shouldn't have to worry about me. You gotta worry more about yourself. Take care of yourself, Queen.
I can do that. I can do that later when this is done. You know?
Well, as long as you promise.
Where are we? It was over here, right?
Boop,
Yeah,
boop.
I can hear Humphrey through the walls, so it's nice. Where's the chest? It's here.
Hey, bitches, I'm free.
Glowstone. It's glowstone. It's glowstone.
Yippee!
Strobe, come on. Come on, Strawberry.
Okay.
You got this, come on.
Yeah!
You got this.
Oh, where are my frames going? Or is it just me?
Yeah, mine are dying too, it's fine. We vibe.
Okay. It's like fucking with my head. But hi, Fergie, hi Ray. Oh my god, hi beloveds. Good to see you. How are you both? I hope you're doing well.
Why are there so many
Oh
chickens?
my god, I've missed you.
I mean, it depends on which one came first, the
the hell?
chicken or
Oh,
Oh
so
my
true,
goodness, you
Concha. I've missed you.
Hello, Strobe a lot. Is that
Hey.
fucking Effy? I got hit by something. It must be
Yeah,
Effy. Yep, that's what I thought.
There you go.
Huh.
I did not see you up there. What the fuck are you doing up there?
Oh my god.
Oh my god, I swear to
I'm
god.
also curious. I know that. I don't know. Effy, just be careful if those crystals are charged. I mean, they're charged. They're charged.
Effy's him. They'll be fine.
Yeah.
Actually, I came to ask you something, XP. We can
Oh,
go up
yeah?
if you want.
Please. I just need to brew something real quick, and then we should be good. Bit of alchemy, you know?
You can join if you want.
Come on, Strobe.
Yippee!
If you prefer to Strobe, could go.
Yeah, we hanging. Oh,
What if I overcharge Effy? I
Kaboom.
swear, please don't. That is like one of my.
Have you
only
seen
ways
Oppenheimer,
Home.
Effy?
It is one of my only ways home.
if you probably can't hear us anymore.
Nuclear fission.
Nuclear
Oh, no.
fission.
I would like my house to be stable for a bit longer, thanks. I need to recharge.
Oh
my house.
man.
Don't look at the crystal. Warning, don't look at the crystal, please. You will go mad.
There's also a creature in there.
Yeah, there is.
Then
Ignore
you have to
game
carve
copyrights
Ross
and
out of the crystal.
music. No, because if I do, I think I may lose my mind.
I'm with you.
Follow me. That's a good question. Okay, follow me.
Wait,
the
what?
direction?
Is that Ross?
Wait, is that Ross? Oh.
You're in the crystal? Am I insane? Am I missing this? Is this the mad thing you were talking about earlier?
Might be. It also might be.
No,
might be a
no,
different-
no, no,
Might
no,
be a different
no.
version of Ross. Contra, just don't look at it too long. It attracts things that shouldn't be. It's fine.
Oh.
Space and time, kind of broken here. Take one of these out. Take two of
Your
these.
tricks don't work on me. I don't watch Five Nights at Freddy's content.
Okay, so what do you need to know, Contra? This is my humble
you're a scientist, are you not?
I am, yes.
Alright, cool. Are you gonna be around in like 2 days from now, or are you dead by then?
I'll be around. I should be around. Yeah.
Alright, that's cool, that's cool. Because I have something I need scienced out. And I
I
don't
can do
understand a bit of it.
Oh, I
But
can
you
do that.
might. Yeah.
I probably will. I'm generally good at most knowledge.
Right. Well, yeah, I
Knowledge.
mean, that's why I decided to come to you instead of like an Evan who's losing his shit.
Oh, wait, Evan's a scientist here? Oh,
Well,
yeah.
he's you know what? Sure. But yeah, I
got
have
it.
something I need more info on. And
Oh, absolutely. I can help with that.
yeah.
Glad to help.
Question.
What?
Yes, Ross.
Are you sure this is Ross?
You scientists, what color is science? I like the idea that it's yellow. I think. It's
No, science is blue. Science is blue.
I
don't know
usually
what
use
that
like
is.
purple or blue.
Civilization has proved to us that science is blue, culture is purple, economics is yellow,
Okay, that's fair.
history is green, and math is
Mm.
red. Those are the colors. That's
Okay,
how it
fair,
works.
No, fair.
Yes, math
I
is
think
red.
English has red ones.
Oh, English doesn't. I mean, English had a gray. We had gray English books. Ours didn't really
Makes
didn't
sense.
really have a color for English. That's not. It's not our language. What do you mean sad?
Awesome, but don't question.
Okay,
it.
I shouldn't be talking to the person inside of the insanity crystal. Yeah, that might not be good for my own. Yeah, no,
No,
precisely.
it really isn't. But yeah, no, I
Mhm.
can absolutely help with that. Yeah. I can help,
Awesome.
yeah.
I do need absolute secrecy on it because if it's what I fear it is, no one can know. So,
Absolutely, I promise.
I can keep the secret.
Ross, I'm gonna carve you out of that crystal if you don't
No,
shut up
you
soon.
aren't, because if you do, I think this might cause a fission reaction that will kill literally everybody.
Oh.
I'll take my chances.
You will lose. You will
Yeah.
lose.
I'm the one with the casino, all right. The odds
The
tend to be in
odds
my favor.
are not
The odds
in
tend to be in my favor.
Contra, there is a 100%
But this
chance-
is the
Exactly,
house.
Ross.
This is the house, and it will win.
This is a house.
I am the house. Damn it.
There's two
No,
houses.
What's
this is
what's
the
that
house,
quote?
and it will
What's
implode.
that quote from Palpatine? I am the Senate.
Yeah.
It is I.
Oh
Have
my
you all
god.
watched Monster House?
Yes.
No, I don't
Yeah.
even know what that is.
Watch party.
Okay. But,
The
yeah, no, I can
offense.
absolutely help with that.
Cool. Anyway, what are you two doing?
Strobe's gonna help me with something incredibly important.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what
Why
it
is-
is, but
That seems okay.
No, it's
Cool.
irrelevant.
Can I know what it is, or am I not allowed to know what it is?
No, because if you do, it may break your mind. So we're gonna try not. to
I'll
do
take
that.
my chance.
oh wait, I'm a little
No,
concerned.
we're gonna try not to do that. If you know about it, that is.
Oh,
It's fine
okay.
Otherwise, trust me, I.
Your mind
Wait,
isn't
so you're
broken, is
making-
it?
Wait,
I use-
wait.
no,
let me
normal.
put the record straight. You're making Strobe do something, of which when she knows what it is, she'll lose her shit. So to
No.
have a safeguard, on her not losing her shit, you're not telling her what it is she's supposed to be doing.
I gave a small rundown, but I don't think she was listening.
She's so
I-
right.
I'm not a man of science, but that doesn't seem like good chances to me.
I promise you, okay. It's only insane if you look into certain parts of it, because I had to use parts of the stupid crystal. Because
It's okay.
So how
Things
did
are
you
really
get in
good
there,
power
Ross?
source. I would love to know that too. I'm not sure.
What do
That's
you mean
the real
I don't know?
Ross.
You're fucking 200
Hey,
feet
Concha?
suspended into the air!
Concha,
Yeah?
I'm gonna be honest. I'm not sure that's the real Ross. So,
Wait, Ross, when's the first time we met?
okay. Not sure that's the real Ross. Definitely is a Ross. It's fine.
Yeah.
No, I had to borrow parts of the crystal. I couldn't look at it. I had to like carry it in like a sack. It was
Okay.
really weird.
Wait, what is this glass?
Hardened glass. It's from my home.
Oh, I'm with you. Okay. Okay, I'm with
How
you.
does glass become hard? What?
Well,
Swiftly moving forward.
it has to become hard to go from sand to glass already, you know?
This is
So then
true.
it becomes
I
just
had
even
to
extra
use-
hard.
I believe I use amethyst. to
What?
harden this.
Nothing.
Oh, you guys are awful.
Huh?
Anyway, yeah, cool.
just
I'll
me, I'm
be
just
back
silly.
at some point. I'll be back
Awesome.
at some point. I don't know. Just don't do anything stupid. I always tell people that, but they always end up
That's
doing
fair.
something stupid. It's like like people. No one listens
Again,
to my
it
advice.
shouldn't be stupid. Shouldn't be stupid, right? It should be fine. Also, I have all of our materials. I'm gonna leave.
Let's
them
go.
for later.
I don't know. Maybe he thinks you're like low key forcing me against my will or something. But I'm just trying to help.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, other version of Ross that may be Ross. I'm not sure.
It's just Ross.
Yeah.
I think I am Ross.
Maybe.
Got it.
Maybe.
You know.
Vote now
technically,
on your
if you're a different-
phones.
An elevator.
Okay, now technically, if you're a different Ross, you're still Ross.
That is true. What happened?
What happened?
Okay, definitely is a Ross. We move on.
Later, Ross. Ah!
Fucking elevator. What is wrong with you?
You're so right.
Yeah, stop criticizing me. I know.
It's a little bit dangerous.
I'm well aware. I need to update this. The scaffolding's been here for like.
It's okay. But
no,
it's
it's-
after you take a break because you've been working so
yeah,
hard.
Okay, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
quickly enter the mechanism. My joints.
No.
Okay, so I'm gonna miss.
Careful
I
with your
don't want them to
joints.
get hurt in case anything goes wrong. Okay,
Oh.
now here's something important. I dropped off the wrong potion. I'm gonna commit several nuclear bombs crimes.
Oh. That's just Effy.
Okay. I'm gonna go grab the other one. I forgot it. Sorry.
Look, you're all good. Don't worry.
You can join me actually. Follow me.
Okay.
I forgot the other interdimensional. Not interdimensional. Sorry, the other anesthetic.
Oh wow.
Oh hi, Effy. Bye, Effy.
It was good to see Concha. I've missed him.
It's nice, yeah.
He's been cool. He's definitely like, I don't know if warmed up to me is like the right term, but like,
I see. That's good to hear then.
yeah, he offered to talk if I ever needed it, but I haven't wanted to bother him because I know he's been very, very preoccupied.
I'm gonna be honest. The more you ramble about this, you are doing an effective job in draining my sanity. You are effective at doing the job the crystal has, even though it's not supposed to have that job. So I don't even know how you're better than the crystal. That is genuinely impressive.
Yo, you just gotta keep. Oh my goodness, you gotta keep climbing and climbing. You just build an elevator. It's not that
Ross, what
hard.
if I blow you up? What then? Oh wait, you follow cartoon logic. You don't die.
You just kind of get singed.
But like the singe will like wash off immediately because it's like it's Ross.
Yeah.
What's a sin?
Your mother. Woo! That was so funny. Ugh. Look at my legs. Hey.
Great. Okay.
Hey.
Oh wow.
Was that funny? I hope that was funny. Yeah.
Awesome. Effy, if you don't mind, I don't want you to be harmed in the region of. It might burn your strings. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, if you walk in the wrong spot or too close. 1 sec, I can't hear you. Okay. Don't get too close. Smiley face.
I'm going in it though. Would that be?
Yeah, no, the inside is safer than the outside. I'll be frankly honest.
Okay, just you be safe though.
I'll be fine.
Please do.
Okay. Now this is. There's a creeper. There's a creeper. There's a creeper. Please, please.
No.
It's
Okay.
fine.
Oh
it's
my
fine.
God.
Okay. So I don't want to alarm you. I need you to take off your armor for the sake of it not damaging it.
Okay. Should I
The
just?
entrance is right here. I need you to stand in the middle. Ignore the wiring. It shouldn't hurt.
Okay.
Correction. It shouldn't hurt if you don't touch it. Don't touch
Okay.
the wiring. It
Okay.
hurts.
Okay. Okay. So I just keep everything on me. Ow.
Okay. Are you in the center, Strobe?
I think so. This looks pretty center-y.
Okay.
Let's just gonna.
Right, okay. I'm gonna lock it. Are you ready?
Okay. Yes, I think I'm ready.
You locked?
Yes. I think we good.
I'm beginning initialization.
This is a little scary. Okay.
Are you okay?
Yep.
It should be in place now.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Now this might sting a little. It should stop any what's it called? Any harm afterwards. It should done. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. I trust you.
One.
Ah!
Sorry. There's one more.
It's okay. Ah!
Are you ready?
Yes.
This is going to. This may. It shouldn't hurt. It may hurt. Are you ready?
Yes, I am ready.
I've been waiting so long.
Ah! Oh my God!
Are you okay? Is it working?
It's like it's
Is
hurting
okay?
quite a bit.
Joe?
Oh my God. Oh my God, what the fuck? What the fuck? What is happening? What is... I died. I died twice. What is? Everyone died. Where am I? Nebula. No. I'm not. What the fuck? I don't know what the fuck just happened. I fucking. Oh my god. 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 I don't even. Fuck. How do I even say? How. Ugh. What just happened? I don't. Everything is like just mumbled together. I don't. Everyone.
Oh my god. Are you okay?
No, I don't know.
Christ.
I don't know what the fuck. Just I'm a lot of things. I'm.
Whoa, take a second. Breathe, brother. Breathe. Oh my god, that was a lot of running. Okay. What happened?
I don't even. I feel like I'm like just have like two streams of consciousness at once or something at the same time. I feel like I just experienced death twice. That was not.
Fuck.
What just happened? What do you?
Well, you died.
Well, what led up to that? I don't.
What? I don't know. I was talking to you earlier today. It was just with XP.
Oh. What the fuck? I
was just talking to XP a second ago, and you a second ago as well, and then XP was like, "Oh, big machine, need help," and then like bat stuff, and then I said, doesn't sound like good odds, and then everyone was like, "Nah, it's gonna be alright." So I was like, "Sure, they know what they're doing. They're people of science," and then I leave, and then fucking you implode, I guess, and then now you're here, which makes sense because you respawned at your bed.
mm, I don't even. I feel like I've been forcibly given someone's memories that were mine, but weren't mine. I don't know how the fuck to explain it.
Okay. I mean, I've had flashes of memories before. I might be able to help if you want me to.
I think this time it's different than that.
I mean, I trusted his.
It's like there, like of a world before this, where there was a lot of people who looked familiar, but weren't exactly the same. But Zolister was the same, and he
killed everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sussy SMP, no? Isn't that what everyone always refers to it as?
Yeah.
I don't know, Zolister told me about the things that he's done.
Did he tell you every detail?
I know that he really fucked up Q and Decity, and killed everyone. But besides that, that's kind of all the knowledge that I have on it.
That doesn't feel like something to take lightly, especially now that I feel like I've lived it.
Yeah. I can understand that feeling. People you've never known are suddenly real. Memories of the never was. I don't know what happened, Strobe, but whatever it was, you were completely destroyed. I checked around XP's house, I couldn't find any of your remains. None of it. It's all gone. Like you, well, quite literally popped as a cloud and faded away. Or maybe you disintegrated, or you genuinely turned into water. I don't know, but you were gone. You weren't there. There was nothing left. Not even your stuff. I don't know where that went either.
Oh my god. Why the fuck did she do that? Why did...
Well, didn't you agree to help her?
Yeah, but I thought it was something to do with her, not with me.
Did she not give you a rundown of things that was gonna happen?
Only, like, as they were happening,
Oh, great. I'm sorry, Strobe. I
Strobe?
don't know. The only...
It's Boba...
Oh, there you have it.
Strobe!
Boba...
Oh my god.
Hey...
Are you okay? What happened?
I'm not super okay. It's a lot. I mean...
Okay, why don't we sit down, alright?
Okay. Nebula, you come on down. Okay.
Come on.
Hold on, let me
Hey,
put
Concha.
it
Oh.
Oh, thank you.
Hello.
Hey. Okay.
You alright?
Um...
Oh god, your clothes are in tatters. Hold on, the
Concha, you
sewing
can sit
kit
down if you
somewhere.
want to.
I'm good.
Ah, shit. But what happened? What happened? You were with XP, weren't you? And
Yeah. She...
what were you guys doing?
We were just putting together this mechanism that she said that only I could help her with, and I'd go in there and... basically a death twice. What I told Contra.
So 2 out of 5?
I don't know.
Okay, well, I'm just wondering. I don't know how realistic or serious that you took the whole, like, die twice thing.
So XP killed him?
I don't know if she meant to. It's...
Well, considering the fact that she fled the scene of the crime, she probably didn't intend to do it. She vanished. I checked everywhere after, obviously, you know, I warned y'all, and then you died. And I was like, sure, I'll check out XP's house, see what happened. And then she was gone, your stuff was gone, Ross was still in the crystal, and you're here.
I see. But it's a lot.
Yeah. It's alright. I'm glad you came back.
I am too. I was forcibly given a whole string of memories of someone who lived a completely different life than me, but was me. And was on Sussy SMP, I think you said it was. Yeah. And if just everyone fucking, all of my friends being taken away from me. And then me along with them.
My god,
And Zolister's still fucking walking around after that? He did that? And...
Oh, Ross got out.
Ross
Ross got out. You were saying Strobe, sorry.
It's fine.
Fail RP.
Why? Why the fuck has he just been getting off scot-free with that?
Well, he didn't exactly get off scot-free. He's died 4 times on his last canon life and is currently taking a break from Showtime and all. Like, he's gone. He's left the scene. He's got 1 life left. I don't know what you want.
What's going on with Zolister?
Well, Zolister killed everyone in the world before this one.
What?
Yeah, he killed everyone, every single person. He fucked up Q and Destiny so much that they're currently in a mental state that can only be described as manic. Quackitus' entire situation and his entire cannibalistic state could be blamed on Zolister and the treatment that he gave them in Sussy SMP. But he's not exactly gotten away with it scot-free, as you put it. He's quite literally got 1 life left, and then he will die.
How the fuck have I not known this?
I actually don't know. I thought this was a very well-known fact.
Nope, apparently not.
No.
Zolister told me it pretty much the first week we met.
What the?
All I knew was he hurt people, but I didn't know it was to that extent.
It was definitely an extreme one.
Yeah.
But what do you want to do? Kill him again? Get rid of him permanently? Is that what you're planning on doing, Strobe?
I don't know. That's what I don't know what the fuck to call that me wanted to do. So I feel very conflicted.
Is Sussy the only one you have memories of?
Yeah.
Okay.
It seems to be
That's good.
one.
That's good. At least it's centralized and isolated and not,
Everywhere.
everywhere.
Is there more of me? Wait.
There's
more of everyone. I can explain that later. Let's focus on you for now.
Okay.
Take things 1 step at a time.
Shit.
Hold on, my food is ready. I'll be right back.
Okay, enjoy your food. Oh my god.
So, how... What do you mean when you said the other you?
The me that was on Sussy SMP. After he killed and just got rid of all of my friends, all I had left in me was anger. I wanted him to experience just what he made my friends experience. But I obviously never got that opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, it's just interesting to me how some people are the same from their counterpart on Sussy SMP, and others are not. And me and Nebula, at least I think me and Nebula, are both not from there at all. We come from entirely other worlds. Well, I actually don't know where you come from. I come from entirely other worlds. It's just interesting to me that you're apparently
Same
also
here.
from Sussy SMP.
I don't remember where I came from.
That's fair. Yeah, I
Don't want to.
that's fair. I don't know why. I don't know why either. I don't understand why that me, of all me's, she would have wanted to. Well, of course, it was. She didn't mean to. Then I don't know what she wanted then, because that's all I'm.
So the stroke before this wasn't exactly talking about what Zalos did on Sussy SMP. So what's your plan now? Are you the stroke from 10 minutes ago, just with new memories? Is that what happened?
I think I'm a bit of both of them. I don't know. It feels weird because I don't fully feel like how I was earlier, but I also feel a lot.
Yeah.
This is also severe whiplash having you be so chill about it, although it makes sense since you said you've had experience.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's a really tall order,
It's
but
a lot.
yeah, everything's a lot, isn't it? Everyone's got their own stuff going on.
Yeah.
I can just relate to the different memories and different worlds part. I visited one the other day.
Did you
Mm-hmm.
you could just do that? What?
No, we
No.
can't just do that, and we're not going to just do that again, because I died and I caused havoc in the other world I arrived in. I got lucky. We're not doing that again.
Shouldn't be messed with in general.
Absolutely not. That's why I got Evan's local labs multiversal beam thing shut down, because it was working.
Oh shit.
I saw it in the midway. There was a blue beam going straight through it, and it was Evan's.
God, I missed some shit.
So yeah, I do know the feeling a little bit. We have different situations, I suppose. You have memories of a different world. I have definitely lived other lives, and I have flashing ideas and memories and people as well. But you seem to be, well, at the moment, from what I can gather, melted into one. As if you're bounded to whatever was left of your Sussy SMP self. And now our Strobe is gone, and you are what remains.
Oh. That's swell.
Because well, you can count me wrong if I am wrong, but I don't think our Strobe would ever say something along the lines of, "Why is Zoloster getting away with that?" With hatred in her voice. I could be wrong though. I haven't spoken to you way too often.
No, I think you're pretty on the nose. You were friendly with them at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Not the same Strobe.
I'm sorry.
That's not your fault.
Yeah,
It's
you're
okay.
fine.
Xpyz the one to blame.
Mm-hmm.
I just,
I'm gonna have to deal with her.
Well, not
Figure
yet.
out why she did it.
We have to.
Yeah,
Let's
not
do
yet.
that after I've had her do what I needed to do. You can have her then.
What? What do you mean?
What?
Don't worry about it, Boba. I just need to talk
We're
to her
going
soon.
to talk later then.
No, we are not doing shit. I am an independent person. I just need to talk to XP. It's my business. It's not yours.
You worry me sometimes, Concha.
I worry everyone nowadays. God fucking damn it. I'm perfectly fine.
You're
Alright,
not.
you go ahead and rest up. You take care of her.
I'll try.
You go be a mayor.
Take care.
thank you.
Even if you're not the same, I still love you.
Okay. I love you too.
Bye.
Bye. Fuck. Why? Why did this happen? Why?
I don't know.
Everything's just blurring together. I don't know what was me or what wasn't me. I don't want to be someone that Boba doesn't like. But those feelings are very much present inside me. I'm I just when I thought that fucking thing was my main worry, but now I got that.
I see.
You do kind of understand, right? It's like,
Yeah.
what do I do? I don't.
I'll try to think of. I'm just trying to figure out something that'd help, not any like experiment or just like. I want to try and figure out something. There has to be something that you can just like. There has to be a way you can like calm down and try to separate the memories.
Maybe. I don't know what can I do in the meantime? I don't. Because what's gonna stop me from just finding my shit back, finding Hollister, and
I don't know.
okay. Where's V? He message asking about me.
I think he's outside.
Is he?
Somewhere. Is it okay if I stay here for reasons?
Yeah.
I'm not on the best of terms with him.
That makes sense. Yeah. You're free to. Okay. I'll see you later, okay? Thank you. You too.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Where is V? V? V?
Oh,
Hey. Sorry, I didn't wake you.
Good. Nice outfit, by the way.
Oh, thanks. It wasn't by choice. It's fine. I really not super. I'm feeling a lot of things right now, and it's all very conflicting and very overwhelming and scary. And I don't want to. I know you're a therapist, but I don't want to bother you with shit because I know you've got shit going on. But it's very.
I don't understand you. Can we move over the form of communication? I genuinely don't understand what you're saying. Sorry.
Yeah, of course, it's fine. How do? Oh, you're all good. I'm feeling a lot of different things at once. And I'm sorry. I don't want to put it on you at all. Thank you. Okay. I has Concha ever talked to you about multiverse stuff?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm aware of it, and one of my friends from area used to be stuck in a time loop. I know about that as well.
Okay.
Over the years.
Damn. I've never realized just how many people seem to have experience with this.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I am like a psychiatrist. I have to be well versed. So, you know, travel is relatively common.
Shit. Well, you can say that again. So I was with XP. She wanted me to help her with something. This mechanism that was below her house. Said that I was the only one who could help. And I ended up getting crushed in it. And in doing that, I seem to have been melded with the version of me that was on Sussy SMP.
You're not the same person.
Not fully.
Okay. Well, I knew that version of you as well, so I guess that's fine.
Oh, yeah. I thought that version thought Zalister had killed you.
Oh, no, it's also never can't. I'm effectively immortal. So,
I see.
but yeah, no, I never spoke to Zalister all that much, and I kind of just kept myself in like a house in the woods. So,
I see.
but yeah, no. I was just so I just attracted. But I assume this is really overwhelming for you.
Yeah, especially since he was one of the people to kill me.
Also?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, yeah. that is- um, Don't you like? I thought you were like not friends, really, but I thought you were like. Oh,
I wasn't very, like, closely acquainted with him. But others, like Ed and Rylan, um, I was fairly close to. And also Zombie. And so, with that, and given the context of what he did, I'm not exactly happy with him, to say the least.
yeah. Have Do you want to like? To him?
I'm sorry?
Do you want to talk to him? Maybe. I'm not sure what you're here. Sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. I... No, it's a lot more violent than talk. But I know it's not good, and I shouldn't be thinking this way. I'm sorry.
All good. I mean, it's not all good, but I'm not gonna blame you. Going through a lot right now. I don't. Yeah.
You may need to go a little bit closer to your mic because you keep cutting out.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my bad.
No,
I
you're
just
good.
don't want people to get hurt in general.
That's understandable.
That's mainly it. I'm just about that. And you know, I want you to be like comfortable and happy as well. Um, and you know, I don't think killing someone, as you're implying, will make you like comfortable and happy.
Yeah.
You know, taking a life is like a huge thing, believe it or not. I know it seems simplified because so many people have done it on the server, but
No, I know.
you know, it's not simple, right?
Yeah.
You're basically removing somebody's opportunity to live, and nobody really deserves to be able to do that, you know?
Yeah. But he's done that for so many other people.
But they're back now. And I agree that that doesn't make him a good person. It doesn't make what he did okay. But it's his responsibility to go and apologize, and he's been doing that, you know? Whether or not they accept it is another thing entirely, but I don't know. Maybe killing him isn't the best course of action, you know?
Yeah. Especially since I heard he's on his last kid in life anyways.
Yeah, true. It's just, you know, it's like, I don't know. He's someone I care about, and when there's people you care about, you don't want bad things to happen to them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I get that. Maybe enough time will pass to where when I do get my stuff back somehow, I won't be feeling this way anymore. Because I don't know where my stuff went.
I think XP picked it up and then gave it to Effy. I talked to her for a small bit,
I see.
and I think it might be in her house.
Okay.
I assume that's probably a place you don't really want to go for now.
Yeah, for now.
Yeah. You can just wait a little bit. But yeah.
Okay.
What do you want to do now that you're like dealing with all this?
I don't know. I should probably find some way to get it out in a healthier way. Because
Yeah.
I just need to figure out how.
Oh, my office is always open.
Well,
And, you know, as per my professional therapist's advice, I recommend journaling. Works great, usually, if you manage to stick to it. Think what else? Different hobbies. You could like do art, or you can build. I know a lot of people like building. Spending time with friends and family. Yeah. Maybe you go on that date with Boba.
I could do that. That'd be
But-
nice.
Yeah, it'll be nice. You don't have to let this define you, Strobe. You know that, right?
Yes. It's a lot, but
Yeah.
yeah,
You want a hug?
if that's okay. I don't want to make you uncomfortable.
No, it's all good.
Thank you.
Let's see how long we can keep this going once again.
Let's go. We need someone to come by to stop us. Where's the Papa! Anyone who's lurking, please! We're committed to the bin! We can't get out! No! How the fuck? Nebula! Come back!
Okay, we got it. Hurry.
God?
Hello?
Or is it from the devil from the Bible that I've heard about? Oh no.
Yeah. But see,
Oh,
we
Effy!
started this conversation. Hi, Effy.
Sorry.
Yeah, we started this conversation and it was like nighttime and stuff, and now it's high noon. It always gets brighter, Strobe.
You're so right for that.
You got this, okay?
Okay. Thank you. I'll try.
No matter what, I'm here to support you. So just come to my office anytime or call me. And yeah.
Okay. Okay, I will. Thank you.
Do you want me to talk to Zolster once he comes back?
Yeah, I think that would be good.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll tell him that you want to have a conversation.
Thank you. Hopefully he'll calm down a bit by then.
Yeah, hopefully. But it's alright if you don't as well.
I don't have stuff anyway, so most of you gotta do is just smack him. But
Yeah, most you'll do is punch him in the face, which he kind of deserves. So you know
Get
that
up-
one I won't stop you
yeah.
with.
thank you.
That one I'll be cheering you from the sidelines on. Actually, you'll be like, I'm gonna beat the shit out of that Ghost. We love to see that.
Get his ass!
Get his ass, queen! Get him!
Thank you. If nobody got me, I know ViolettaFire got me.
Anything for you, Strobe.
Thank you so much.
The jacket looks cozy though. That's a good thing.
Yeah. I think it's like a security blanket that I had. So yeah, it's pretty
Nice,
comfy.
Weighted blanket.
Yeah. Hug.
I do have to be on my way now though. But
Okay.
send Nebula my regards, and I hope everything goes well. Okay.
I will. Okay.
Rest, please.
Okay.
Stay inside. Rest a little bit. Sleep. Go to eat.
Okay.
Normalize being a sleepy little guy. Normalize being tired all the fucking time.
You're so right for that, man. Yeah, I'll get right on that. Thank you, man.
Bye. Bye, Strobe.
Bye, V.
Bye. Oh God.
Bye. What? Oh no.
Effy!
Please. Somebody.
Please.
We've done it again. It's a curse that we live. Wait, I hear someone. Please.
Wait, I'm going to find more. Thank you, Effy.
Thank you. You were a lifesaver, Effy. Oh. Godspeed.
Bye, Strobe. I'm going now.
Goodbye. Okay, yeah. There we go. Okay, that was helpful. I think. It's Sploingo. So true, Ross. Oh, shit. I look like a weird conglomeration. I communicate through the crunk school. No! I am insane! God damn it! This is so fucked up. Okay. Yeah, words cannot describe the amount of rage I feel towards Solister right now. Death is not suitable of a punishment for him. But I mustn't think about that. That's not good. I must listen to the words of V. Okay. All right. Not even me anymore. Just wanted to exist, be myself, actually live free. Now I'm just shackled again. But I got you, Russ. I'll get you food to the crystal.
Hello.
Hello.
Did the
Oh.
talk go well?
It did. It went very well. There's like netherite scrap just chilling in here. But
That's where they was.
Oh my god. Okay, let me just hold on to these. This is my main source of food right now because this is all I have.
I can give you stuff. I have all.
What's fine? Oh my god. Well, thank you. I'll bring that to Ross. Oh my god. Well, thank you. You don't need to give me all your food. Hold on. Hold on. Chill out. Oh yeah, V wanted me to send you his regards.
Okay.
Yes. And it was, yeah, it was a good, nice talk.
Okay.
I needed that.
Yep. Well, I'm glad you're sort of okay now.
Yeah,
Well,
I just...
like, more collected, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like I can function.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's
but,
good.
V's gonna try to have a talk with Hollister to get him to talk to me. So, hopefully that's gonna go okay.
Hopefully.
I'll make sure I won't have things on me, so I'll only beat him up with my fists.
Okay.
Yes. Wait, was I? I was gonna say something else, but I forgot. Oh! But, oh yeah, happy affiliate anniversary! Yeah, that's what I was gonna say! Golly!
If you want, I can just get you another set of netherite.
I mean, thank you. But, oh!
I've 2 pieces in my chest.
Yeah, guess
2
what you
fully
gotta
maxed
edit?
pieces.
I appreciate it, but you probably shouldn't. Oh!
Oh.
Did it. Now you can take away a flower! Oh my god, if we add our lives together, they can make 5!
No way!
No way! This is so crazy. Ross, you want a grave? Well, you gotta die, canonically.
Hold on. Ross, you want a grave?
Wait a minute, Nebula.
I'm joking.
I have. Oh yeah, you're still. I mean, you're still on 5 out of 5, but you've died. You've died plenty. Okay, new order of business. We have to make a grave for Ross. It's but also give them food.
Okay. Silversaur joined the game. No way.
Whoa, this is crazy. What if the Crunk steals my
Who keeps
grave? It could
removing
be.
the cherry gates?
Oh, it's been gone.
There's-
I'd have been over here. It's fine. Okay, we give Ross food. The
Yeah.
Crunkstall deity food.
Yeah. How do we get the food to Ross?
That's a good question, actually. We'll have to find that out.
I have a silk touch pickaxe actually.
It's like 5 layers of like random glass.
Fuck. Hi Silva.
Rose David. But
I don't have the icons, it's fine.
oh, okay.
The icons disappeared actually. I don't know how to get them back, help me.
Oh, I think it's like a specific keybind. I don't remember which.
Oh, it's a keybind, okay, that would probably
Yes.
explain it. How did Ross... Okay, don't
Oh.
do that. Oh.
Hey, I'm not too comfortable with actually going over there right now, Ross. I'm gonna be honest.
No, I can go over if you want.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Give the chicken to Ross.
Okay.
Thank you. My DoorDash. It's okay. We switched DoorDash. It's okay. You'll still get your chicken. Okay. How was that lore, chat? What'd you think of it? I have not done lore acted in character in a hot minute, so I hope you all enjoyed it. Wacky lore. Oh my god. Yippee. I've been saying yeah! Hi, Vex! Good to see you. Oh, I can unsilence my alerts now, but I'll read them again. Porgy, thank you so much for following. I very much appreciate it. Bobo, thank you for following. Thank you. I very much appreciate it. And Rin and Ross, thank you all very much for following, gamers. I love you all. Beloved. And thank you again, Kyle, for the 2 fucking years. Jesus Christ. Happy affiliate anniversary. Yeah. I love everything in lore and everything. I'm going so much insane. I'm so glad. I was so worried, like, during that whole time. I was, like, not providing anything good for people to go off of for the lore. I will be honest. Like, I was just sitting there like, oh my god, I'm not saying anything. I'm just, yeah. You know. Go Blorbo. He's so true. You were so nice. I'm so glad. But yeah, I'm in it now, Garfield. Oh yeah. Anyways, how do you add skins on Essential? Hi, XP. Thanks for the affiliate anniversary. So basically, you go up to the outfits, and then you go up to one that you don't have an outfit yet. You go to skin options, and you do lock skin on outfit, and then you upload it. Hee. Oh, I did it with mine. Bam, bam. Vex, thank you. That's so sweet of you. I'm so glad you think so. That means a lot. That means a whole lot. Oh, and I can turn on my PNG back on. Actually, I can. Oh, I didn't pin it. Shit. Thank you, XP. I tried my very best. You did so amazing too. You did so good. I'm excited to look at your point of view later. Oh no, I have them. Don't worry. I just have to. Ooh. Oh, it's like completely been removed. Shit! I gotta add it back. I think it's a game changer. Yes! Add back PNG, and then I come back. I return. Yeah! Oh! What am I doing over here? Wait. What is that? What is that I've selected? Oh, it's still there! Never mind. Yeah, don't worry, V. I still got it. And then I'll go to this one. I guess, even though it's not fully me anymore. Since we out of the lore. I'm kicking my feet. Yeah, I'm like different now. I'm like in the shit. I want Solicitor to canonically suffer so bad. I'm like so confused with why the fuck XP wanted to do this to me. And I'm just like, why is a multiversal things just normal? Why is that just normal? Why is everyone such a freak? And fucking Yeah, I'm different now because I want to do acts of violence, but I know I mustn't. I must hold back the demons. But yeah, I did it. I did a funky little merging where I like combined my Sussy SMP skin with this current Showtime skin. So like to show I'm not me anymore. It was the mines. You're so right. It was the mines. It was. Where it's like the main aspects that were like added was like some clouds, because if you notice there's like a bit more clouds that were on the other skin, on Showtime skin. And of course there's a jacket and the pants and the boots. Those were the aspects that were added. Because I still got like the bits of my shoes like left in there, and then also my dress. So and now it's like canonically like my freaking like security blanket. Giggles. You're not you when you're hungry. So true. Speaking of hungry. Do you want me to draw a combo? I do not want to make you do anything, beloved. I would die for you. It's like it would definitely be cool, but I also do not wish to make you do more work. Smiles. Oh, also slight little detail for those who probably would not notice. I made the eyes a little bit darker. I am a melted amalgam of angst. Yippee! I'm just like XP, like mother, like daughter. Wait a minute. That's not what she got. I'm so sorry. Well, yeah, I'm more than happy to explain or, talk about things, stuff with the lore and all of the stuff that went down. Have your stuff safe. Oh, yeah, I got told you did. So thank you for keeping him safe. But no, I'm gonna slurp all of the eggs. Slurple-lorple, you know? I can't even log on yet without my skin. Dang it. No! No, I'm just running around. Yippee! DoorDash acquired! This is a W. For the Ross community. Could you tell me why my wife left me? It's because she couldn't respect the grind. I'm sorry you had to find out this way. But it's for the best. Yeah, oh my god, I like added whole new freaking stuff on my stream deck for this, so I can like immediately cut to black because I have like multiple things amidst my stuff. And then to cut it back quickly. She found out I had 2 years of Strobe sub and got jealous. Gotta grind to keep that sub up for real. So real. Yes. That cut to black was so good it scared me like genuinely. Let's go! I'm so glad that was the intention. Because I was just like, frick, well, I've got to like switch skins in Essential. I gotta figure out how to do this. without like showing it on screen, and I would have to like I could have like switched scenes, but then they would have like the transition of like the funky little like cloud stuff, and I'm like, that doesn't really add well to it, so I'm just like, I'm gonna turn off everything on the screen. But I hope you all also definitely watched XP's POV, because XP had some cool stuff going on too.
Hi, Strobe.
Hi!
Hello.
Wow, glad to see you're free.
DoorDash was successful.
Your DoorDash has arrived.
Thank you!
I don't know how Ross got free, but I mean, yeah. Out of lore, completely out of lore. I have no idea how.
I don't think anyone knows how, I'll be honest.
I'm a little dubious.
A little silly, if you will.
Let me just say, I have
You were in the crystal 1 second, and the other second you were out.
Yeah. Let's say I have one trick up my sleeve. My schlunkers.
Your schlunkers.
Yeah.
That is a message.
Oh my god. That's so silly. It's definitely the message of touching it. The music, I'm like, yeah! I'm for all of the music that I've had playing, it's been the, my DMCA friendly, Strobe playlist. Fun fact. Smiley face. But then I turned it off for, like, all of the talking. Because for the cut to black, I turned off the music, too. Yo. Kyle is so based and so real for that. I agree. Retweet and upvote. Is saying that like
This is going to make a really good YouTube video.
hey yo. Hey yo. I'm excited.
First, I need to make like 3 other ones, though.
Oh yeah, I should probably, you know what, let me change my stream title to be like lore wind down.
Yeah.
Boop.
Also, thank you for finding the 17 ancient debris in the furnace. I had genuinely lost that.
No problem.
I didn't know where it was.
You know, I'm happy to help. That's still part of me, that's still congruent. I'm always still happy to help.
Yippee.
Oh yeah. Oh no, I did not want to see how many viewers there are. Don't show me that. Raw. Yeah. Gamers, fun fact, did you know I have merch? If you do exclamation point merch, you can go to my merch site, and I have like a hoodie and a mouse pad. Stupidity is strength. You're so real for that. Thank you for the hydrate, XP. Exclamation point merch! I did not! You and your merging. I'm so scared. What have you given me? Exclamation point mortgage. I've also hydrated. Delicious.
Pushing the entire world.
Oh my god. Me. Yo, there it is.
Okay, so I have enough netherite to get you a completely new set and also a sword and an axe.
Well, you don't need to do that, because I still have
Okay,
my
fair.
stuff.
Okay.
XP, the return! It's okay, we're in lore wind down, so we can hang out. Oh, XP's in streamer VC. I'm on my way.
Hello.
Hello!
Hello.
Hello! Hee hee hee.
My turn. Oh.
How's it going, silly?
I am struggling with Essential as always, and they removed their
I am
support page
currently
on the website.
downloading your stream VOD XP.
You can do that? Oh, Marina.
Yeah,
Yo,
website.
XP.
My vocal cords hurt from like panicking.
Yo, I
This is gonna
feel.
make a really good YouTube video.
Nuh-uh, Kyle. Nuh-uh.
Yo,
Nuh-uh.
XP, we love you.
Nuh-uh.
We do.
Okay,
No, we
videos,
don't, no.
Airborne Probe, copy link, Twitch video down. Hold on, how long is it? Oh, it's. Oh,
That
that's actually
stream just knocked me out. I will fight and you. I
Twitch
fight you and
video
lose, but I
down.
will fight you. That is no. Okay, I'm taking back my 2 netherite blocks though. I want that back from the spills.
That is fair.
Oh, I should have everything of your belongings that dropped.
Can I have
Everything.
4 ingots for no particular reason in
You
brackets
have-
silence trim?
You
Nah.
literally have
They need to
27 netherite
make love
scrap.
that way.
17.
Oh, my bad.
Hands.
Only 17.
I don't have any
Only
like, extra netherite. I need to keep my blocks in case I
Mug'em
need them again.
thumbnail only 17.
Okay, so I'm at the hellhole.
Hey,
Crushing.
For what?
that's so
Wow.
silly. The thing where I got hydraulic pressed.
Oh,
In my defense, in theory, it should have not crushed you. Instead, it should have. What's it called? It should you probably not have shock, if anything, like actual shock.
It crushed me.
You can think it crushed you, but I know that you actually died of shock. You didn't die of being crushed. You went black because you're very shocked and died. Okay.
Oh, already.
Hmm?
Already. My things.
Yeah. Hopefully, this makes up for the accident. No, okay.
Do you blame yourself?
Oh yes, I do.
Well, it's quite
Oh.
common in this situation for a patient to feel a kind of guilt. Where's my
Oh,
trident?
You tried? Oh, it's my inventory.
That's okay. Thank
I
you.
wish I had a trident.
I'll give you mine.
No, stop.
Oh
I might
yeah.
have killed you, but I'm still overprotective of you.
I got silly names for all of my items. They're all after types of clouds.
Ooh.
I'm so silly like that. Yeah, oh my god.
Okay, I can breathe again. This is good.
Yay!
What was I gonna
I have a
say?
silly idea for what trim I should put on my armor.
Is it silence? I'm hungry. Uh-oh.
I just
hungry.
gave Ross a DoorDash order.
How hungry is Ross?
How hungry?
So I'm struggling with the skin change. It won't like pop up a menu if I click the button. At the upload
Oh.
skin button. It just does nothing.
Use essential.
I am.
Use Wait,
Wait,
what?
can you share your screen for it?
Hold on.
Okay.
Okay, share your screen. Go to the title screen first.
Okay. Well, there I go. Reality's dying again.
No.
Where is my Discord? Moment. I have like
Oh,
a
yeah.
small headache.
Oh.
Maybe like
that
put on
makes
my
me so
normal
much
stream
small
playlist.
headache.
No.
I may need a nap soon, but other than that, yes. Okay, see?
Okay, hold on. Okay, so click wardrobe.
I know, then I go like replace. I want to replace this one, right? So I do that, that, and that, right?
Yeah, I think.
And now I'm stuck like this, and nothing.
Okay, so try again.
I did 14 times. Or was it 17? I'm not
No
sure.
box skin on outfit, maybe.
I tried both ways. I just switched back so it doesn't break. I don't know how it works. So they removed their support page.
They've removed their support page.
Yeah. Like I've tried uploading it from like the Minecraft thing. It just does not work.
Try closing. Did you close the game first?
Twice.
Oh.
Herm.
That went really well. I'm so happy with how that went.
Yee, I'm glad.
Not the part of it you dying. No, I'm absolutely devastated. In fact, my character's completely broken.
I'm so glad about that. People are gonna want to talk to you, by the way.
Oh? Oh,
Yeah.
no, absolutely. They're not going to be talking to me, though. I need the skin. That's the problem.
Yeah, I know. They're like, oh yeah, we gotta find
I'm a
XP. Though it seems,
Oh,
because
they,
it
they
seems
literally
like
can't. I'm not in the server anymore. I'm in a different world.
Yeah, I know, but they want to, and they're like, because it seems like she didn't do that like on purpose because she fled the scene. But
If Effy was there, but it was in a group, you would have heard me running back and forth, shouting no. I was just, Strobe, I was shouting no.
oh
Back
my
and forth
god.
so much. What was I gonna say? Sorry, but what was I gonna say? Yeah, we were going back and I was going back and forth, and then I just started crying. I just stopped and cried. Sleep down, Z. Sleep well, Ross. Sleep well, Ross. You won't be
Good
stained
night,
glass
Ross.
if you broke mine. Other than that, sleep well. Acting was actually so sad.
We love Ross. I am so excited to like watch it.
Oh, I'm glad the intro bit went well. It was okay in my opinion. I probably could have done better, but it's fine. I
Yeah.
ran out of ideas partway through and it sucked. I was so sad about that because I had so many ideas for the start of it and I didn't know what to do with the end bit and it felt so awful.
It's fine.
Like
You
I
did
tried
great.
3 different things, it just did not work.
You did amazing. Vex is like ascending right now.
I'm also free to answer any questions, Smile. But yeah.
Yeah. Because talking about lore is fun.
Before I just want to say y'all are cool Norse banger. Thank you.
Yippee!
Thank you, Ross.
Thank you so much, Ross. You are cool too. Catch you later. I'm so glad you
How
did
did
so.
I fix? I have like the perfect skin. Like it's actually exactly what I need it to be. Like it's great, and I can't use it.
And don't check Showtime General? Okay, I'm checking it.
I'm checking Showtime General. You owe me stained glass. You owe me stained glass, Ross. Ross, you owe me. I'm gonna commit several war crimes. Several war crimes, Ross. I'm starting with mass genocide. Ross, I'm starting with mass genocide. The Strobe, I'm sorry. I'm killing everybody. Everyone's going down. It's gonna be just
No,
Ross. I'm
not
multiplying Ross and killing Ross.
again.
I'm multiplying Ross and killing Ross. I'm gonna give you 3 times trauma. Yep, that feels
Okay.
bad saying it out loud. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Oh, I see. Well, fucking Zolister just in the editing corner, deafen that bitch.
No, it's always great. It's always great.
No, I
Let's
know.
kill his ass.
Kill him
Mods.
right now. Mods. I love lore. It makes me suffer. Me too.
Yeah, I want to know how to fix my freaking.
Okay. Wait. So you're sharing the entire thing, and then it's like when you click that.
Okay,
Wait,
I'm doing
wait.
it again.
Oh, is that? Did you make sure? Okay, when you. Okay, is that the one
This
you
is the
want to
one
switch out
this is the one I want to replace. Yes.
of? Okay. So do it.
XP, you owe me rent. Get out of my house. I'm gonna nuke it.
Okay, hit the thingy.
Okay.
Did you hit lock skin on outfit?
Yes.
Oh fuck. And oh, you did that last time. So and like it just
It's like it
doesn't-
locks it. It just locks it.
the thing doesn't pop up. Like
No, there's supposed to be a pop-up.
I think so. Hold on, let me.
I will sue you. The law doesn't affect me anymore.
Yeah, you're supposed to have like a little pop-up thing. Hold on, let me share my.
Okay, I'm gonna look. If it works, I'll be sad because
Be
everything.
like this. This is supposed to
Clipping
pop up.
enabled. Sorry. Just broke.
God damn it.
It's slowing a moment. My computer's like on fire. People overloading the website? No, they're not. Okay, good. Okay, I see. Why does it pop up for you?
I don't know. I
Huh?
don't know what this is. Do you have pop-ups disabled or something?
No, I'm replacing my essential. I'm updating it. Screw it.
Okay.
Was it out of date before?
No. But I hope she mental love this. So, fun fact, Vexen. I have a special rules in place involving my character. Oh, it's gonna be, next stream's gonna be really fun.
It's gonna be so fun.
It's gonna be really fun. It only goes up from here. It only goes up from here. Dude,
Me when I
this
fight
was the
my
catalyst. It's only gonna go up from here.
What?
You're a demon. I have
Yeah.
3. It's fine.
Me when I fight my demons to not murder the fuck out of Zolister as soon as I see his ass. I'm just like, you!
Completely honest, if you were dead set on doing it, I'd help.
Oh my god, thank you.
Me when I
It makes really good content.
It would.
Sorry, I locked out. The creeper was behind me.
No, that's fair. The banger name for the videos would be like, fucking, I killed the SMP killer.
Central family.
That
I support your
title
murderous
is-
thoughts. I would cheer for you. Based.
Okay, so
Oh my god, the miso soup.
no way.
Oh my gosh,
Okay,
I might.
let me
I
let me
need more
see,
water.
does-
I need more water. I'm like suffering here.
let me see. Does
How I
complementary
killed my
forbidden
Chris
option
Graves,
work on my PC?
Exactly.
It does not. Okay.
I'm hoping to, hopefully make a video out of all my VODs when I get the lore done.
Where should I? How
I'm
how
also
do I
going to make a video?
go on date with Boba? What should I do for me
Time
and
warp.
Boba's date?
Time warp.
Oh, we're doing it in the I mean, Boba offered it in this present time.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, I'm not gonna
Oh.
be fully. I'm gonna like sit there thinking
Oh.
like, you know, Boba probably only still loves me out of pity because I'm just not me anymore.
Oh my gosh, Essential's gone, but my reality is fading. What the heck on earth?
What?
Gah.
Go?
I am but a pathetic husk.
No.
I mean,
Hey Strobe, let me try something real quick.
I'm a bit of a.
I'm not
bit of
using
a
Essential and it feels weird.
Oh.
But oh.
Who the fuck?
Hi Strobe.
Where are you?
Hey,
How's it going, Strobe?
who? Are we going back into lore? Do
No,
I need
not
to
at all,
pull?
Not at all,
Okay.
not at all, not at
Hold
all.
on, where are you?
Please, I have had enough for today. My brain hurts.
Where are you?
I'm rapidly
my house.
approaching your
I'll
location.
go down.
Okay.
You.
I am not CXPR. Why, hello there, Strobe Strobolati. This is not in lore. Smile.
Hey,
Is it in character or
you.
no?
No, not at all.
Okay.
That's so silly.
Where are you?
Why your eyeball look like that?
That's a good question. I don't actually know.
Why your eyeball? You look a
Color
little
inversion goes
goofy.
crazy.
It's a little goofy eyeball.
I see now I've messed up the skin and I find that really funny because there's an extra layer there I forgot to remove.
Oh yeah, you're not even. You didn't do it slim. You're not
Wait,
slim.
am I not?
No.
Okay, no, I'm out. No. Sorry, fixing this immediately. Good lord.
It's
No.
fine.
Sorry.
No,
Ah,
I
ah.
must
Lockout
be
spot.
slim.
Pardon?
Right here.
Hold on.
Right here. I think.
I also just messed up.
Please do not suffocate her.
No, unboxing her.
I'm not logging in ever again. GG.
No, right,
I'm
GG.
unboxing. Okay, Xpyz unboxing video.
Okay, let me just upload this one. Fix it, please, please, please.
I think you could just edit it from what you didn't have to
I
upload.
just, I just edited. I have to edit.
Oh, thank you for the stretch fix. I will stretch.
There we are. Hi, Neb.
There we go.
I have no qualms about killing people anymore.
Hey. Hey.
You're up. No, I have no morals anymore. Smile.
Let's not. I'm like
Guess what?
struggling to keep my morals. I'll be honest, chat.
That's great. You see, I'm
Are
not the
you
same
going
person. I'm an entirely different person now.
Well, I'm not
You
the
know-
same either. No thanks
You know,
to
the one
you.
yeah, no, that's fair. The one that killed you, she's gone. She is gonna be crying for the next year and a half in another world.
She's gone. Oh my
Have
god.
fun- Have fun with that
It's
information.
like in Steven Universe. Okay, so what is this? Where is Pink?
Oh my God.
She's gone. What did you say?
What a
Answer me.
change.
She's gone. That's exactly how it'll go.
Finally.
And-
Okay, sorry. Someone finally cracked the archives, stage 1.
Oh.
Holy crap.
Ow.
07 Codename Xpyz horror. Not just Xpyz horror. This is codename. I'm codename right now, so I think. Yeah.
Oh.
There's a reason I'm named the way I am. Anyhow, someone finally cracked the archives. Finally.
The archives.
And I'm also struggling to keep my voice. This is awful. Head and hands.
I mean, it's okay. I may end stream
Okay,
a little bit.
I need to get replay shots on Sussy now.
Awesome. I need to destroy
yo.
this. I need to destroy this.
Where
This
you
needs to
where you
go.
going on Sussy? What are you doing there?
You know exactly where. Okay, so first van.
That's gonna be a very fun
Second.
intro next time. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Vex is going through it.
I need replay shots because this video.
I gave like the greatest hint in like all of time about the archives on stream, and I'm just finally, holy crap,
Who cracked
Lord, hidden
archives?
fans.
Effy, thank goodness.
Okay, if it was
Someone
going to be anyone, it would have
finally
been Effy.
Effy or Vex?
Yeah.
Effy's good at ARG type stuff.
Not for the coming stages.
You have to make them possible.
Oh, they are possible.
Yeah, to
Just
you.
unexpected. Just unexpected.
They are possible to you.
Yeah. I need to hide some stuff around. I also need to finish designing
Okay,
something.
yeah,
Hee hee.
okay, so I'm gonna need to ask someone else to render replay shots for me because my complementary shaders are broken with
Huh.
the setting I would need to use.
That's it. I feel weird looking like this, and it also feels good at the same time.
XP, would you be able to render replay shots for me? I will send you the replay
Maybe.
file. I'll send you the
I
file.
can try.
I'll send
I
you the
can
file. All you
try.
have to do is like export it with the specific
Alright.
shaders on.
Yeah.
Okay, so
How
you
are
have
you
do
doing, Strobe?
I'm doing
I don't
great.
have any shaders on this profile or like on my computer right now.
oh, I
Lynx is a Showtime Strobe apologist. Yippee!
yippee.
To be fair,
I'm excited.
the only thing I've done that can be seen as bad is accidentally kill my friend. So far.
That cannot be seen as bad.
It can
No,
be.
I am so
no.
excited, Strobe. I get to. Our next interaction is gonna be so good.
Fear.
Yeah. I'm gonna be like confused and a bit angry.
I see.
Yeah, and
Oh,
you're
I
gonna
have
be like,
good
hee hee,
thing.
that's so silly of you.
Oh, I'm
You're
gonna be
just-
laughing at you. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, you're
I
like,
feel
hee hee,
really
that's so
bad and emotionally
silly.
wrong,
You're
but
just making
still.
her feel worse. This is fun.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Just know it's not me. Oh my gosh.
I
One moment
know.
here. One moment here. Where's my microphone?
Minecraft.
Okay, XP, are you able to
If you send it to me,
install
I'll do it.
complementary shaders?
I have complimentary reimagine if you want that.
I
just
need.
found it.
What about? Can I send you normal?
Yeah, just send it to me. I'll do it
Okay.
in a bit. My head is starting to hurt. I'm going to
Okay.
keep going.
It's
I'll
okay.
just do
Nar-
it. Just send it to me and I'll do it. It's fine. Never mind. I have water. Chat hydrate.
Yo,
I'm opening my shader pack folder. Okay, so it
every
has
day
it has settings on. It's low quality but so it won't kill your PC. I hope. But okay, I'm just gonna send the complementary shaders, not
Send to me and
complement.
I will do it in a
Okay,
bit. I just
okay.
would
This
like to
gives me
chill
time to
for a bit.
actually
It's okay.
get the replay files.
Winning. Every day I learn new Showtime more. Every day I go a bit more insane. I've also learned some fun stuff that I'm excited for to hear.
Okay, slash. Okay, I need to go to the
What if I
main
just say hi to
file.
V? Hi V. V. Oh, I have to change my colors, don't I? Oh, fun.
yeah.
Oh, I like these colors. Oh well.
Oh yeah, I have a superior drag. I still have a superior dragon helmet on Sussy. Why is there a dispenser still going?
What the fuck?
Oh, I found a shulker.
I'm so normal. I'm so normal. I'm so normal. I'm so.
For normal.
Oh my god.
Okay, I just found someone's shulker from the end fight on Sussy.
See.
Why is there so much anvils?
Yes. I'm so normal. See.
So normal. I'm getting kind of hungry. I'll be honest.
You
I've
should
only
eat,
had Lucky
bro.
Charms today.
Strobe, you should eat food. You should also end stream and eat food, Strobe. So I can't even zoom in on you because I don't have essentials anymore. Head in hand. Head in hand. I'm like,
Just change to 30 FOV, it's fine.
you're right. Manually doing it.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I woke up at like 11:50.
I usually wake up at 2 PM.
I woke up at what's it called? I woke up at 10 on the dot and then went to edit.
How much have you eaten today?
Lunch.
All right, we're all gonna take a food break.
I've
No,
eaten,
God.
Mm,
Oh my
I've
god.
eaten today.
yes,
Start your day, chip the fire emoji. Exactly.
so
Right.
real.
I'm gonna sleep in. I kid you not, like 3 tomorrow because I feel dead. Okay, so this is a fun fact here. Social interaction is incredibly exhausting for me, specifically when it's in character, because holy crap, the anxiety energy. Gah. My bones are like dead. I was shaking the entire time during that stream. Oh my god.
Oh no. I was like so worried that I was just not giving enough
I simply don't sleep.
the whole time.
No, you were
No,
doing
you
so
need to
good because like you nailed it. You nailed it. You nailed it. I was
did.
just trying to act like scattered, if that makes sense.
You did great.
Let's go. No, it was so
Mm.
good. It was Yeah, I was trying way too hard to act scattered, which was really working because of my anxiety at the time.
Yeah, no, you're
'Cause
doing
I need to
amazing.
probably stop and recharge because holy crap, A, my heart, B, my lungs, and C, my brain.
Method acting.
My eyes and lungs are crying.
Oh my god. Okay. Yeah, we definitely need to take a break. I mean, it was good to have like a little bit of wind down, but I think big break is
Big
good.
wind
Self-care
down.
is
Self-care
very
is
important, right?
bro.
So true. What,
I'm fine.
XP?
Hi, who's that?
Do
Never
you
heard of
want
him.
me to take care of myself?
You should. I shouldn't. You see.
I
Or
want you
actually,
to take
no.
care of
No, I will
yourself.
stab you. How about that? I'll stab you in game. I will stab you because I have
Okay, fucking do it. Yeah, I don't even have my armor on. I thought I did.
That's why it's even worse.
XP, stab me, murder me with the sword. Come on, do it. They all want you to.
I'm like
No, they don't.
actually holding myself back right now. I am shaking.
You incredible cloud. You invisible cloud.
I actually can't. Ah, my mental health. Oh, I love it. That's so funny.
Oh yeah, I guess I should probably make those colors a little bit darker to fit me. And I should also tell Evan is loco to update the Showtime tier list to add this skin.
And this one too.
Yeah.
Oh
Because it was a big lore.
Alright, okay. I do need to go
Oh,
now.
no.
My tits are starting to catch up with me.
It's okay.
But yeah, it's okay. Okay, yeah. Let us end stream and go get food and all sorts of silly things.
Ow.
Meow.
Meow.
Gamers,
Meow.
I hope you all enjoyed the stream, had a real good time. I know I did, even though I was a mess.
See,
and I
Strobe
died.
didn't though.
You know it.
Oh my goodness.
Thumbs up
I should have
emoji.
rated you. I just realized. No.
No, it's okay.
Oh, man.
It's all good. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you've been here 2 years now too. That is literally crazy. Even though I've known you for more than 2 years. That's, oh my god.
Let's go.
Sorry, that's just a weird thought to me. That's funky. Yeah. Don't know where. Don't know where.
Why is there so much debris in the labyrinth?
Don't forget, I'm pretty happy about the merch. We're the real host for real. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Yeah.
Strobe someday. Got it.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
No.
I'll leave you to your own. What's it called?
No, it's okay. You're all good. But I hope you all. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, rest of your night, or whatever time it is for you right now. And I hope you all stay safe. Also, and don't fall like the hit game. And it was great, you know, being here. It's pizza time. I fortunately don't have pizza, but I'll have some food. But yeah, catch you all sometime later. I'll be able to like probably do more lore because I could do things.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Alright.
But yeah, later, gamers. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.